Today we're going to talk about some chalk pastel techniques, and some of these are going to be similar to oil pastel techniques, as you can tell by the names, but some of them are going to be a little bit different, and it's important to practice those even if you know what stippling and scumbling and cross-hatching. If you know what all of those are, it's still important to practice those with the specific medium that you're choosing to use. So we have these chalk pastel trays with a nice wide range of colors so that you can use those in a lot of different ways. So what you'll need is you'll need your tray, just one per table. You'll need a paper towel just kind of off to the side, and then your chalk pastel technique worksheet that's over on the counter. You do not need this, but I'm going to show you some stuff that you can do with like water and a paintbrush after we finish this up. Okay, so we are going to start with a layered blend. I am going to grab a yellow, just to start with a lighter value to bring it up. Chalk pastels are a little bit more flexible than oil pastels because you can go back and blend, but keep in mind that you can always make things darker, but it's difficult to make things lighter. So I'm just gonna lay in a nice layer of this yellow right here, kind of similar to like the first step of like a heavy pressure blend. And chalk pastels are gonna get these kind of chalky things on the side, especially if you press really hard. If that ever happens, you can just kind of wipe them off or just blow them off of your paper and get them kind of off, okay? So then I'm going to bring a nice complementary color into this yellow and purple, and do a layered blend on top of that. So you can kind of see some of it peek through. Okay, and then I'm also going to show you what's going to happen if I use a color that actually blends another color into it. So let's do some blue and yellow on it. And you can kind of see some of that greenish blue peeking through if that's blending in really well. So I wanted y'all to see both of those because you can kind of see how you can blend a color, but then also how it can look kind of interesting if you can see colors through that. All right, feathering is the next one. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to start with a light value and move down to a dark. Feathering is going to seem similar to hatching, except it's like really long lines. So this is really nice if you're doing like natural textures or working with portraits. So I'm working with that yellow. And then what you'll do is I'm gonna bring a nice like orange on top and kind of make like a flame type look. So you'll see these like long lines starting. So I'm not just coloring it in, I'm using these long lines to kind of add like a color transition. And I'm gonna get some red. You can switch directions that you're going. And then I'm gonna show you what happens when I bring that yellow back on top of it. So that creates a nice different texture and technique. Okay, so stippling is next. Stippling is where you draw a lot of little dots. So I'm going to start with a blue on this one just because I want to switch it up. And keep in mind that chalk pastels are soft, so you don't want to hit it too hard because then you can crumble and crack and mess up the pastel. So just a reminder, the closer the dots are together, the darker the value, and the farther they are apart, the lighter the value. I like to use the corner of this, and then you might want to continue rotating your pastel, especially if you kind of wear that corner down. Okay, and then I'm going to do the same thing that we did on our oil pastel video. I'm going to bring in a yellow and kind of add some like around it. When it comes to pastels, if you're not getting the look that you want with just hitting it down, you might want to actually like physically draw it a little bit and put a little bit more pressure down, especially with the lighter colors, okay? All right, now scumbling, same thing. I'm gonna grab a blue like we did with our oil pastels. So this is the scribbling or like the C marks. closer they are together, the darker the value. The farther they are apart, the lighter the value. And these are nice ways to blend some stuff in and give it an interesting look. You can experiment with what it looks like to bring white back on top of it, and see how that blends in, or even a black if you want. So just like on our oil pastels, I like the way that the white kind of blends it in, gives it a nice texture and look. You can experiment with like looser scribble marks if you want on these. Some of those are kind of nice like that, and kind of just test it out, see what you like. Okay, side stroke is kind of obvious of what that is and what that can be. So I'm just gonna get this like turquoisey color. And a side stroke is when you have the pastel on its side and just use the side to blend it in like that. You can do a layered blend with these side strokes and it looks kind of nice. I like it. It creates an interesting texture, especially if you're laying in a light background to then draw on top of. So that's a fun way to blend stuff in or get just interesting textures and looks. Cross hatching. We've done cross hatching before when we did our drawing. This is just a bunch of the cross lines. I like to just kind of make different X's and stuff like that. The closer they are together, the darker the value. The further they are apart, the lighter the value. Okay, I'm going to bring in a yellow to blend on top of it. This is fun to use in any like portrait work or even like nature if you're drawing some sort of a tree or things like that. So you will find that chalk pastels blend a little bit better with the colors. They're a little messier and a little harder to control with the blending, but you'll notice that they blend a little bit better than the oil pastels do. Okay, we're gonna do a tint now. And a tint is obviously the transition from white to, or a hue and white together. So I'm gonna start with the blue on this side. And I'm gonna do the same thing where I kind of lay in a little bit of a value scale with that blue. And then I am going to bring in this white on top of it to create that tint. Bring the blue back in. Again, if you want to use swirling marks, you can. And then bring the white back in again. And kind of play with it until you get the color and the value that you want. Okay, then I'm going to do a shade with my blue and a black. So swirl it on there. And lift that up. Okay, and then, where's my black? Get the black and do the same thing where you bring it in. Just like that. And then you'll want to maybe bring that blue back in and blend it on top, kind of like you do with the oil pastels. Okay. Okay, now you have your chalk pastel techniques, which are really fun to use and fun to work with and kind of see what you like best. All right, now that these are done, again, you're not necessarily going to do this part. I just wanted you to see this as an option. So just worry about getting this done. For now, but if you are doing chalk pastels, this is a cool thing to see. So if you want to get any sort of really cool details or things like that, you can draw with your pastel and then bring in a little bit of water. Don't get crazy with the water because it can get kind of messy at first, but you will want to make sure to clean that off. But it will definitely do some kind of cool look and value and different things like that. It's a fun way to blend some stuff in and something kind of cool to think about with that. Okay, and then if you want to blend anything on top of it too, you can do some kind of experimenting with this if you want. Let's say that I added some yellow on that. You can do some kind of cool, interesting things. So it's definitely something to think about. And it kind of has a watercolor look, but looks a little bit more saturated or vibrant. So that's just something fun to know that you can do. Once you finish this technique chart, go ahead and move on to working on wherever you're at in the process of our unit, and have fun, practice and experiment with different colors, and then get to work.